Hey everybody, my name is Lee Wyke. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I am a local street luger. And I'm doing this on my GoPro as I pointed at the computer just because I got my own little narrative to run along with this. I may also download it for my own files. I have already contacted, well, first off, it's KATU headlines. Street luger cruises streets of Mount Scott. Anyway, they just managed to get this up on air about an hour ago, so apparently I'm right on top of it. Although this stuff, the time isn't always correct. I've noticed on many things when I Google them and all that. So yesterday, the 17th of August, I just happened to go out street luging on Mount Scott. I had nothing hooked up with these camera people or whatever. They just happened to show up. Bob F., don't know his last name, showed up when I was out there doing it. All right, and he seemed like a nice guy, and he presented himself very friendly. But I'll tell you right up front, I'm very wary of news reporters because years ago, okay, everybody has cameras on their dashboard now. Well, not everybody, unless you're in Russia or Ukraine, because I found out yesterday that they're actually required to have dashboard cameras, which I think is actually a very good idea. And I've ridden around with one for years. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first people in Portland that had a dashboard camera. Well, Kyle Eboshi of News Channel 8 thought I was weird or strange enough because I put a video of an off-duty firefighter or a firefighter supporter slamming onto the freeway and cutting off 2 lanes of traffic as he or she did so. And I caught that on video, almost caused a few accidents, and I put that on YouTube, as a lot of people do with near crash videos and all this. Well, News Channel 8 saw it, and they felt they had to do a video on that and people that roll around with dashboard cams. They acted all nice when they were in my van and everything riding around with me, but when the story came out, Kyle turned me into, tried to make us look like snoops. I think the title of the story was Camera Snoops. Well, now you go around, try calling everybody who's got a GoPro or any one of a zillion other kind of cameras a snoop. Kyle or anybody else wouldn't get very far, so... but, you know, Kyle was ignorant back in the day when it was easier to be ignorant, and he got away with it. And what's worse, he got to put it across the news. Don't you wish you got to do that every time you had it in your head that something was one way? There's lots of ways to look at things. Too bad all of us aren't roaming around with news cameras so we can put that out in front for everybody to see. Okay, now, you know, I love my sport. I've put about 5 years of hard effort and energy into doing it. So if I can get some exposure, I am not a glory hog. I do not care at all. I've got a camera on my helmet because I like to record my rides, but I don't care about titles, trophies, cameras showing up or not. I street luge for the love of it. I love the mechanics of it. I love it. It's my sport. Being a glory hog isn't going to keep you from getting hurt or add to the enjoyment, really. You're either good at what you do or you're not. And for me, that's my trophy. That's my reward for being a street luger. So without any waste, I'll just go ahead and let you hear this story, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. And again, I've already contacted the head of the newsroom, or the guy who's in charge of all that stuff, and even the camera guy. I don't have a problem with the camera bits of this, but the story itself I do have a problem with. As a matter of fact, if I let you just watch the video, you'd probably think, hey, that's kind of cool video. You know, got some shots of a street luger or whatever that guy is. But then when you add in the vocal, the narrative, it takes a different turn. So here you go. Let's turn the speakers up here and you can take a listen. And hopefully we don't get any glitches. This isn't the best computer in the world. Look at how fast things load. This thing's a rocket. Okay. It's loading. Yep, someday I will actually get a fast car.
How many ways can you be lazy?
Okay, well,
all at a nearby lazy boy furniture gallery and live life.
I didn't really need the commercial, but it's going to force me to listen to it for another couple seconds. Okay, here we go.
One of those days when you saw something and said, well, that's weird. The KATU photojournalist Bob Foster did today on Mount Scott. And that's how we have this story about Lee Wyke and his unique mode of travel. Let's just say Lee is a real luger.
Ha ha ha.
Here at the top of Mount Scott.
And I got a good break developing. I'm not one to turn down a street luge run.
Ride number 3, Mount Scott.
If I'm already stoked for it, it's like, oh, it's too hot, you know, I'm gonna do it anyway. This is a nice in-town run for street luging. About 5 years ago, I was cruising around on YouTube and I saw street luging and I just fell in love with it immediately and I knew I had to do it. Number one thing is just be safe about it. I'm not just riding where I am, I'm riding down the road. So I'm thinking what's going on to the left, to the right, ahead of me, you know, a block or two ahead of me, and I've got plans, you know, for whatever contingency plans for whatever might happen. It's just a lot of fun. I couldn't tell you how much I enjoy it. It's great.
That's okay practice, right?
Okay, that's pretty scary looking stuff.
Really?
It's basically a skateboard you ride feet first.
Kinda.
Lee says street luge is less dangerous than smoking, which is something Lee calls a death wish he doesn't need.
Alrighty.
How many ways can you be lazy?
Okay, hold on. Sorry about that.
Nearby Lazy Boy Furniture Gallery and
Boy, they gotta let you see the ad at the beginning and the end. Okay. Now we're gonna listen to this with the sound down. I'm gonna let it run in the background as I say a couple of things here. And if it doesn't hit us with another raft of commercials. Yeah, boy, they just can't get enough of that commercial stuff in there. All right. As I said before, when you play this through without the narrative, it's not bad. And there's a few parts of the narrative. I mean, I'm glad they let me put the safety aspect in there. He didn't say anything. Bob interviewed me for a while. Not mentioned in here is the fact that I've been doing this for 5 years, that I build all my own equipments. I've built 7 of them, 5 that I really care about. Nothing, you know, talking about, I mean, I realize these news bits are short on purpose. They're supposed to be. It's not like they're going to dedicate much on me. But this doesn't even rise to what it could be as just a little quick news blip. Yeah, the only positive things on here that you hear being said about street luging are from me. I'm emphasizing safety, that I love it. It's an awesome sport. Try to be careful. And I am. I'm a good representative of street luging. So you can hear coming from me, at least I hope, a little bit of the passion and the care, the interest that I have in my sport. Now think about your own sport that you love. And imagine somebody showing up to interview you about your sport. And especially if it's something that they're not used to, because most people don't even know what a street luge is. They're not used to seeing them. So people tend to take kind of a negative, biased, raised eyebrow approach to that. I'm going to turn it up here just a second so you can listen into what...
Pretty scary looking stuff, but it's basically a skateboard you ride feet first. Lee says street luge is less dangerous than smoking.
Oh, okay. Now look at her. Look at her. Here she is, this polished newscaster, but if you isolate what she just said there, wasn't that one of the most weird, jaunty, awkward narratives that you've ever heard? I mean, I think I presented myself in street luging better, and then it comes to the end, and she's talking about, it doesn't give me a timeline search bar here to where I can go back to that one section, but you heard it. That looks like pretty scary stuff. Well, yeah, to you, a newscaster. I mean, what's the most exciting thing you do in your day? But this Portland is loaded. We're a community of all kinds of people. You know, people riding their bikes in traffic, windsurfing, and doing motorcycling. The people are at more risk and more danger depending on how they approach using the road than I am when I'm out there using the road. When I'm surrounded by cars that are doing all kinds of stupid things that looks pretty scary to me. And if I get in a run-in with a car, guess who pays for it? Me. I'm laying on a street luge on the ground. I have to pay a special awareness to what I'm doing. I'm right out there. I can't hide inside of a car to where if I do something stupid, you may or may not get a good description of me. I'm right out there for everybody to see. I'm a representative of my sport, for better or worse. What I do not need, even as little as bad drivers, is somebody who's obviously ignorant, who's immediately scared and biased by something they or she doesn't understand. Why is that even part of the news story? Why are we hearing her opinion on that? I don't care that it looks scary. She looks overdressed and uncomfortable to me. You know, so who cares? She's a newscaster. She dresses for what she does. A lot of people are scared to death to go in front of a camera. I'm not one of them. And as a newscaster, she's obviously not one of them. So what does scary mean? It's different things to different people. All right. But beyond that, first of all, both my parents died of lung cancer. My dad died 4 days before my only son was born. So of all the analogies, of all the comparisons that she could have picked, instead of the very awkward one she ended the story with, Lee says that street luging is not as scary as smoking, which is a death wish that he doesn't need. What? Why do we even have to bring smoking into it? Why do we have to put it on the level of death wish? But see, that's what they want to do. They want to get this street luging on some comparable level as, death wish. For some people, it could be smoking. For some people, it could be street luging. You know, why not take a more understandable analogy? Because I've ridden, like many of us, we've grown up riding bicycles in traffic. And any of us who have done that have had some pretty darn hairy experiences if you've been doing it long enough. I've been hit by cars on my bike several times. News ever show up to do a story about that so that people, might be better drivers and pay more attention and bicyclists could be better aware? Nope. So, anyway, but because it's a street luge and something different, then we gotta, have all this bias and draw all these death wish comparisons and everything. Why didn't she just say, Lee says he feels, based on his experience, that street luging, he's been safer on his street luge than he's been on a bicycle, or that he's felt on a bicycle, or any of the other number of sports that I named off in the interview to the Bob, the video reporter that came out and talked to me yesterday. She had to jump over all the sensible analogies and reach for the one that makes the least sense and happens to be the most offensive. As I said, my parents did die. I'm not just, it's not something that I don't take personally. So anyway, I just really, you go to any high school journalism department and close your eyes and point anywhere in the room, and I bet you're probably going to be able to come up with somebody who can put a story together better than that. Again, video-wise, it's not bad, and I appreciate what Bob did, and I've told him so. But just the same way I will bend over backwards to help people or tell them about when I appreciate when they're doing things to be helpful, because I understand the difference between things that are helpful and things that are not. When people do things that are absolutely stupid, careless, biased, and show that they really don't care to, expand their own integrity and knowledge before they come and end a video like she did. She just took this video. I take street luge downhill. All she needs to take a story downhill is a desk to sit behind, because that's exactly what she did with this story. And it happens at the beginning. A real street luger, and she goes, and you could tell she's trying to play it up, because she goes, let's just say, they think they've been really witty, so they've got to set up their title. He's a real loser. Well, you don't have to be a genius to figure out. Most people will take that in the context. Yeah, a real loser, a real loser, a real loser. I mean, come on. I don't appreciate that. And nobody in the street luge community would appreciate that. I will not be linking this. I've got this on my YouTube channel out of, a level of self-defense, because the fact is this is already out there. And so I'm going to have, they've got a video out on me, so I'm going to have this, my response to it, video out. But as far as further linking this, I've demanded already this morning that this be retracted. And if, they thought that a street luger, they came across a street luger, so they figured out we don't have to pay much attention to this sport or the guy who does it. What they don't understand is that it's an international community. Nobody is going to be helped by their witty self, they're so happy with their yuck, a real luger. No street luger is going to be, is going to appreciate that. And what happens is street lugers are always looking to be represented in a good light. And so few and far between are the stories that are done about us. So when one does come up, I don't appreciate being the guy that's in a video that's titled A Real Luger. And they could have said a real street luger. Here it says, street luger cruises streets of Mount Scott. But that's what you see here. But on the story, the vocal part of it, and at the bottom of the video, it says a real luger. It doesn't say any of this. They spelled it out here, street luger. But in the story, because it messes with their wit, they want something that rhymes that goes with a real loser, because that's their double entendre there. So at the beginning of this story, they're not even choosing to be respectful from the very title itself. I don't appreciate that double entendre. I'm not a real loser in any way, shape, or form. I don't get into anything unless I can learn it and do it right, because I'm not going to be that guy that drags a sport down. I've proven that in my industry. I've lifted it up. I've elevated a lot of people in my industry, which is why over 4,000 people have bought my screen printing equipment that I invented in my garage. When companies that are huge companies, just multi-million-dollar companies, couldn't come up with equipment that was as smart and logical as mine, I did so because I had the experience in that industry and I cared to make it available for other people. I try to have that same approach for street luging. I've gained experience. I've never acted like I knew or could do more than I could. I've been humble about it, and yet I've had a progressive attitude. I want to get better, and I want to present it to people. And then along comes a news story like this, where they just want to poke fun at me. But street luging in general, a real luger. None of us needs that. We just don't. And then for her to take it the way she did at the very end, I'm embarrassed for her, actually, because there was nothing. She might as well have just shut up and not said anything. When it was done, she could have just said something positive like, wow, lots of things going on here in Portland, and that's an interesting thing. Just left it at something like this. Why did she have to make a negative comparison? Well, it makes me look defensive, like, well, it's not as dangerous as smoking. At least I don't have that death wish. There is an analogy there, but you got to reach past a whole lot more sensible analogies to get to that one. Of course, street luging, cancer, cigarettes, that is something that I would think of because, hello, I lost both my parents to that, so I'm never very far from it. I miss them every day. I would love it if I could see my mom and dad standing at the side of the road watching me. Hey, mom and dad, look what I can do. They knew I was an adventurous guy growing up. My mom said to me when I was like 7 or 8 years old, someday you're going to work for yourself. And I would have loved it if she could have seen the inventions that I came up with and that I did come to work for myself and that, hey, Mom, look at this cool thing that I've invented, Mom and Dad, street luging. I would love for them to see that. But they can't because they're not here. And so finally I get some exposure here, and I don't care about it, but street luging gets some more exposure, and it's this crap. Nah. I hesitate to even put this online, and I think I've said enough about it. But keep in mind, I've ranted about this a little bit, but how does that stack up to thousands, tens of thousands of people already who are going to see this story, misrepresenting me, misrepresenting Street Luge too much, because you've heard about it. First impressions. The story opens with the title, A Real Luger. Not a real street luger. Why don't we say it for what it is? A real street luger. Show some respect right out the gate. KATU decided they couldn't do that. And then just all the crazy, weird, DEATHWISH. Things that didn't have to be a part of the story at all. They decided to take the low road. Now, if I was a guy who had a wheelchair stolen off my front porch and I couldn't get around, and KATU came out to do a story on that, you can bet none of those terms would have been used. But because they're looking at something they don't understand, and they think it's crazy or scary or whatever, they've got to put that low road negative bias on it, which I did not do. I'm trying to elevate the sport, then I have to stand up for it. I just wish that I never would have run into Bob yesterday. Very nice guy, but the result is like totally unacceptable. When you look at it for the whole, it is the whole story. The way it started out, what she says at the end, no, it's just got to go away. I'm not a journalism. I don't dress up and sit behind a desk to give you the news, but I guarantee you if I did, I'd be doing a better and more respectful job than that. Thanks for watching this.